Chapter 6. The Mist of Time. As Ericsson rowed across the bay, the waves were rough, but his oar strokes were strong and steady. So where do you live? Jack asked, rocking from side to side. Eric's Inlet, the boy nodded to a place between the steep hills where the sea flowed in. Did people name it for your father? Said Annie. No, said Ericsson. My father named it for himself. Does he work at one of the research stations? Jack asked. Harrison looked puzzled. I mean, is he a scientist? Asked Jack. The boy shook his head. He is a sailor. He said, Oh, cool, said Jack. I'm a seafarer too, said Erickson. Soon I will sail away on my own. Annie laughed as if she thought he was kidding. Jack didn't know what to think. He liked Harrison, but he couldn't figure him out. The boy's manners, his spear, and his outfit were really odd. And who says seafarer anymore? Jack wondered. Erickson rowed through the choppy waters and into Eric's Inlet. The hills on either side of the narrow water passage sparkled with ice and snow. As the boat moved along the inlet, clouds covered the sky. The air grew foggy. Soon it was hard to see where they were. Jack could hear seabirds cawing, but he couldn't see them. Icebergs drifted close to the rowboat. They looked like ghost ships. Spooky, said Jack. Yeah, Annie whispered, but we're doing what our rhyme says to do. On a day that seems endless, with no dark of night, travel through fog, travel through light. Right, we are, said Jack, but I still don't know what no dark of night means. Before Annie could answer, a bellowing noise came from up ahead. What's that? Said Jack. The rowboat moved past a flat iceberg. Through the fog, a huge animal loomed into view. The creature was as big as a polar bear. It had two long tusks. A walrus, said Jack. The walrus had bushy whiskers, a broad head, and flippers. Its wrinkled skin was the color of cinnamon. Hi, mister, said Annie with a laugh. I didn't know walruses were so big. Erickson moved on. He steered the boat between sheets of floating ice. Two ringed seals rested on sheet. Seagulls were perched on another. Look, a reindeer, said Annie. Through the fog, Jack saw a delicate looking deer on the shore. Its antlers looked like tall tree branches. You're beautiful, called Annie. The reindeer dipped its head shyly. She said, Thanks, said Annie. Did you know reindeer are also called caribou? Cool, said Jack. And their noses warm the cold air before it goes to their lungs, said Annie. Like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, said Jack with a laugh. Did you write a report on reindeer too? No, said Annie. I just really love learning stuff like that. Jack smiled, and Annie knew more about animals than anyone. She could talk to them and hear them in special ways. As Erickson rowed down the river of seawater, the fog cleared. The clouds drifted off. The cliffs and the waves sparkled with sunlight again. Soon they passed low hills and greenish brown fields. There was less ice and snow. A few trees dotted the land. Sheep were scattered across the hillsides. Oh, this is so beautiful, Annie said. Has your family lived in Greenland for a long time? 8 years, said Ericsson. We began the voyage from Iceland with 25 ships, but 11 ships did not make it. Are you serious? Said Jack. Yes, said Ericsson. That's so sad, said Annie. Jack was confused. What year was this? Everyone knew the journey would be hard, said the boy. He looked over his shoulder as he rolled around a curve. This is where we live, he said as the boat glided into a sheltered cove. Wow, breathed Annie. Anchored along the water's edge were 14 ships. They were long, slender sailing ships made of wood. Dragon heads were carved into their prows. Jack gasped. He'd seen ships like these before. They were Viking ships. Jack gasped. He'd seen ships just like these before. They were Viking ships. I eat myself. Suddenly, Jack understood what had happened. He and Annie had come to Greenland in the time of Vikings, about 1,000 years ago. Chapter 7. Lots of things made sense to Jack now. Ericsson's clothes, his spear, calling himself a seafarer, and his story of 11 ships lost while sailing from Iceland to Greenland. Ericsson rowed toward a small wooden pier near the Viking ships. When the boat reached the shore, he jumped out. We are here, he said. Jack and Annie climbed carefully out of the boat. As Ericsson tied it to the pier, Jack turned to Annie. Those are Viking ships, he whispered. We saw ships like that on our mission to Ireland. Remember? Viking raiders were invading the coast. Yikes, said Annie, her eyes wide. We should escape now while we can, said Jack. Wait, let's look at the rhyme, said Annie. Jack slipped the rhyme out of his bag. Annie pointed to the last verse. They read silently. Explore different worlds, show friends where to go, unite all these worlds with a word that will glow. I think we're doing what Morgan wants, Annie said. We explored the world of seals and orcas and narwhals, and now this world, the Viking world. But what about? Jack started. Shh, said Annie. Erickson had finished tying up the boat. Jack put the rind back into his bag. Follow me, Erickson said. Even though he was still limping, Erickson walked faster than Jack and Annie. He bounded across the rocky shore and started up a hill. Jack and Annie hurried after him. Soon they could see a cluster of buildings over the crest of the hill. There was a long wooden house and smaller thatched huts and several barns. A few people were working in the chilly sunlight. They were all dressed in several layers of clothing. Women were hanging clothes to dry. Men were stacking wood. A boy was leading cows to a barn. A few girls were feeding hogs and ducks. Chickens and dogs wandered about. Suddenly, the dogs began to bark. Everyone looked around. A woman cried out and pointed at Jack and Annie. Two brown and white dogs bolted down the hill, barking ferociously. Erickson shouted a command. The dogs stopped barking. A tall, burly man strode down the slope. My father, said Erickson. Erickson's father had a long red hair and a wild, bushy beard. He carried an axe. Oh no, whispered Jack. The Viking man looked fierce. Wait, here, Erickson ordered Jack and Annie. Leaving them with the dogs, he limped to his father. Jack nervously watched him speak to the wild looking man. How are you guys doing today? Annie asked the dogs. The dogs barked. Oh, you're just pretending to be scary, she said. The dogs tilted their heads, then started to pant. Their tails were wagging. Annie laughed and held out her hand for the dogs to sniff. Their sniffing quickly turned into licking. Erickson and his father walked down to Jack and Annie. This is my father, Eric, the boy said. He is the chieftain here. Oh, hello, sir, said Jack. Glad to meet you, said Annie. Where do you come from? Erickson's father asked in a deep voice. Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, said Jack. In the United States of America? Annie added. You might not have heard of it, Jack said quickly. No, I have not. Where is that? Eric asked gruffly. It's on the continent of North America, said Annie. Oh no, thought Jack. He knew the Vikings hadn't heard of the United States or North America. In Eric's time, the United States wouldn't be a country for another 700 years. The Eric just nodded. So you are from far away, he said. Yes, said Annie. Welcome, said Eric. He turned to his son. Leaf, let us take your friends to the house. Thanks, said Annie. Then she and Jack started up the hill, following the boy and his father. Eric called the boy Leaf, Jack thought. Leaf? Leaf Erikson? Leaf Erikson? Annie whispered. Erickson's first name is Leith. I heard that, she said. Erickson must be his last name. Yes, I've read about Leif Erikson and Eric the Red, said Jack. They're famous. Famous, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. They're two of the most famous explorers in the history of the world.